There are a few things you should know before buying a Miata MX-5 or Eunos Roadster. I wish someone had told me then what I know now. That is why I make this video. The point is that you don't know what you don't know. You will most likely find out and learn a lot after buying that car. My first recommendation is don't overthink it. Does it mean you should buy the first one you see or drive? No, that's probably not a good idea. I had test driven 4 cars before I made my decision, but in retrospect, I did not know exactly what to look for. Therefore, it was more about getting an impression of what it was like to drive one. Now, 12 years later, I think that any of the cars I tested would have been a good choice. I was happy with the one I bought and still own it today. Nevertheless, there are some lessons learned. That brings me to the next point. Don't expect it to be perfect, or that it will be the last Miata you will ever buy. Once you own it, you will discover the room for improvement, or that it has some downsides you cannot change. Worst case, you will have learned what you really appreciate and get one that suits you better. To avoid that scenario, it is better to start with the end in mind. What is it that you want to do with that car? Is it supposed to be a daily driver? Do you want to drive it on a racetrack? Do you want to use it for road trips or just a relaxed cruise while enjoying the scenery? You might even want to buy one as a project car to learn how to maintain and upgrade a car, or a combination of all of these things. Your goal is to find a good foundation for the plans you have. My next tip is don't pay for things you don't value. Maybe I've seen too many videos of people deleting a fully functional AC system, power steering, or cruise control system just to reduce the weight of the car. It pains me to see those parts getting destroyed and scrapped. Consider giving those parts a second life and making someone else happy with a nice upgrade. Of course, your budget plays a role too, so determine what you are prepared to spend. I can still remember the first time I saw a Mazda MX-5. Together with a friend, I was visiting the motor show Essen in Germany. This was in 1990, shortly after the MX-5 was introduced in Europe. I was blown away by the design, but not in a position to consider buying one. It took me another 22 years before I finally reached that point. I had just turned 50 and received a financial bonus from my employer. My wife and I felt it was a good idea to realize the dream of owning a Roadster. So that is when my search started. At the time, the ND Miata did not exist yet, and the NC was beyond my budget. But to be honest, I did not even think in those terms. All I knew was that you had a version with pop-up headlights, and there was another version that I also liked. Later on, I found out that I was talking about the NA and the NB. In the next part, I will contradict myself about not overthinking it. But remember, I still needed to learn that lesson. If I recall correctly, the first one I test drove was a 1990 Miata, imported from the US to the Netherlands. It was a black car with a tan interior. The car drove well and was offered to me for 2,000 euros, a fraction of what it would cost in today's market. Back then, I was not aware of the differences between the Miata and the European MX-5. My tip for you is to do your homework and invest some time in learning about the differences between cars of the same generation. There are regional differences and facelifts and special editions that change the game. By the way, this might be a good topic for a future video. I also test drove a special edition NB2 with a 1.6 liter engine and a wooden steering wheel. I liked the steering wheel and the white gauge faces in the instrument cluster. The point I'm trying to make is that Each test drive can teach you more about what options and trims are available and how it changes how you experience the car. Next on the list was a 1999 NB1 Miata. Again, a car that was imported from the US. It was twilight blue with tan leather, cruise control and a hardtop. That was the first time I saw a hardtop, and it immediately became a requirement because I had no garage space or carport at the time. So a hardtop could protect it during the winter months. The 1.8 liter engine clearly had more power than the 1.6 liter. My takeaway from the test drive is that your list of requirements will only grow with every car you drive, but it's not good for the budget. Therefore, you really need to prioritize or decide to spend more. The final test drive was in a black, full option 2005 NB2. And by this time I had made a spreadsheet. It contained information about all the cars I had test driven and a few more that I thought were good candidates. I compared all features and tried to decide which one would be best for me. The one that stood out to me had nearly everything I had on my wish list, but it was also the most expensive one. Such a spreadsheet can help you keep an overview, but in reality I was fooling myself, seeking justification while pretending to make a rational decision. And then I decided to go for the MB2 that I mentioned earlier and started the negotiations. The previous owner and I agreed on the price, but I also had a disclaimer. The car had to go through an inspection done by an independent party. That test revealed that the air conditioning was leaking and would need to be repaired. To compensate for the expected costs, the price was reduced further and the deal was done. I can recommend having such an inspection done, unless you can do it yourself. I certainly did not have the knowledge and experience back then. Okay, let's assume you have found a car you like and you managed to buy it. If it's road legal, make sure to enjoy it for a while without modifying it. Over time, you will find out what is missing or should be improved. The brilliant thing about these cars is that there is so much you can do yourself or with the help of the community. You can modify and upgrade the car to really make it your own. These cars are really easy to work on. If you have never done it before, start learning and be proud of the progress you make. During the first 6 years of owning my first MX-5, I hardly changed anything and brought it to a workshop when it required maintenance. That has totally changed. I've done many modifications and completely transformed the car and do the maintenance myself. Do you remember I told you not to overthink when looking for a Miata? Let me briefly summarize why. If the car needs maintenance, you can start with that. Replace all the fluids and filters. If it's missing some options like air conditioning, cruise control, heated seats, etc., you can always add those later. If you don't like the color of certain trim pieces or even the complete interior, go out and find the parts you like and install them. If the car needs welding due to rust issues, it's not a disaster. But you need to reserve some of your budget for it, especially for the NB generation. It's not a question if it requires welding, but when. The front chassis rails, rocker panels and rear wheel arches are famous for it. Knowing what I know now, I'm convinced that any of the cars I test drove would have brought me joy. So go out and find a car that meets your budget, buy it, make it your own and enjoy the process. This channel is all about sharing information, knowledge and experience, so I'm eager to learn about your experience as well. If you have any questions or remarks, just leave them in the comment section below. Thanks for watching MX5 Info, and until next time.